What is up, guys? In today's video, we'll be talking about multiple days of severe weather that is going to result in tornadoes, extreme flash flooding, and a chance of tropical development in the Gulf that is going to lead to significant rainfall. Let's get right into today's video. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to be talking about is the slight risk of severe storms that we do have in effect ranging from Bloomington all the way up towards Green Bay areas, which includes Oshkosh, Madison, all the way to Milwaukee, Chicago, and even Rockford and Waukegan and Muskegon areas and portions of Michigan into Illinois, and even includes Gary and portions of southeastern Wisconsin areas. Now, the main threats with this will be an isolated chance of tornadoes, especially across Madison, Milwaukee, Rockford, and Green Bay areas. So if you are in those areas, you are under a risk of tornadoes today due to an MCV that is moving across those areas that is going to cause some isolated supercells that could lead to isolated tornadoes in these areas. Now, there is a big spread between the dew points and the temperatures, but we still could see some isolated tornadoes possible today across these areas. So definitely be weather aware for that, as we do have a 5% chance of tornadoes, and make sure you do have alerts and have a plan. And then there's also a risk of wind damage around 65 miles an hour in these areas, so be weather aware for that today on the 16th of July. And then we also have a slight risk of severe storms in effect across Pueblo over to Denver, Colorado, and Cheyenne areas, Fort Morgan, Longmont, all the way over to Torrington areas and portions of Wyoming and the Colorado regions. And there's also an isolated tornado threat possible. So this is nothing too significant. It's only a 2% chance of tornadoes. But if you are in Denver, Cheyenne, Fort Collins, I would be weather aware as an isolated tornado is possible today. So just be weather aware for that. Nothing too significant, but it's always possible to occur in these regions, and a risk for some wind damage and even hail possible with these storms. So definitely be paying attention to that, as you could get hit by hail in these regions that could put a dent into your cars, especially in Pueblo, Denver, and Cheyenne areas. So be weather aware for that today. Now for tomorrow is just a marginal risk of severe storms. It's a huge one, in fact, ranging from Wichita all the way over to St. Louis, Missouri, Cincinnati, Louisville, Evansville, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, Montpelier, all the way up to Maine. A huge marginal risk of severe weather, which one of these areas will probably be upgraded to a slight risk of severe storms tomorrow. Not much in the way of tornadoes. We could see an isolated tornado across portions of Montpelier, Burlington, and Utica areas, in portions of New York and Vermont areas. Nothing too significant, but an isolated tornado too is possible. So just make sure to have a plan, be prepared, and have alerts when the tornado does strike, if it does occur. But the main threat will probably just be wind damage across these areas, nothing too significant. Now, what the model we are going to be using is the national blend of models, and basically it blends in all of the different models into one model together to get the most accurate depiction on basically everything that has to do with weather, to make it as accurate as possible. And the one we are talking about right now is the total precipitation and rainfall here. And if you notice, there's two prominent areas of the most rainfall across the U.S., one being in this orange and red area, ranging all the way from Illinois into Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, all the way over to Wisconsin areas, and then another area near Louisiana and portions of extreme southern Mississippi and portions of Alabama in the coastal regions that are going to be prominent there too. But we'll talk about that later, as that is associated with a tropical disturbance that is currently going to head in and dump rain in these areas. And this is why we are already under a risk of a flash flooding for many, many days that is going to actually occur here. The first day being today, actually, with this risk of flash flooding that we already have over across Rochester, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Madison areas, associated with this MCV that is dumping rainfall currently in Muskegon, Mount Pleasant areas, and then another area of excessive rainfall that will occur tonight over the overnight hours, as we're going to see some storms start to develop across Kansas City, Columbia, Jefferson City, Dodge City, Wichita areas. We'll have some clusters of storms develop overnight tonight that could cause some isolated severe storms, but mainly a flash flooding threat. So be weather aware there, as isolated flash flooding is possible over the late night to overnight hours in Wichita, Kansas City, Columbia, Topeka, and Dodge City areas. And then another area of flash flooding across Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cleveland, Allentown, Philadelphia areas, Harrisburg, Washington, as we could see some dumping of rain and training of thunderstorms over the same areas over and over again. That could lead to flash flooding, and the slight risk yellow flash flooding, meaning a 15 to 40% chance of flash flooding. So be weather aware for that, and remember, turn around, don't drown when encountering flooded roads across those areas. And then for day two, the flash flooding risk kind of pushes a little bit further to the south. It's not as significant as it was for day 1, but we will have this flash flooding risk across Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Pueblo, Flagstaff, Cedar City, and the St. George area, and a slight risk of flash flooding. So be well aware for this in portions of New Mexico across Interstate 25, across Trinidad, Las Vegas, Springer, Mosquero, and Clayton. Not the Las Vegas in Nevada, but this one in New Mexico and portions of extreme southern Colorado. So be weather aware for that, and some isolated flooding that could occur in those regions. Now for day 3's flash flooding threat, we do have a risk of flash flooding across Omaha, Des Moines, Lincoln, and Grand Island areas. So if you're in those areas, be prepared as some isolated flash flooding could be possible and could lead to some flash flooding impacts. But the main thing we do want to talk about is if we look at day 4's flash flooding threat, it really expands across these areas. And so when that model was showing all this rain across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, this is going to be as we're going to have a significant pattern of really warm weather and a lot of instability across these areas. And that's why we're going to be seeing derecho season starting up with tons of MCSs and lines of storms that will cause significant wind damage, especially over the areas I just circled, ranging from Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan areas, probably in the most prominent areas, especially in that slight risk of flash flooding. Getting into next week or so, this will start to kick off as we do have some risks of flash flooding on day 4, meaning the 19th of July here across Des Moines, Chicago, Davenport, Columbia, Indianapolis, Charleston, Pittsburgh areas, and this is going to continue into day 5 too, with an area of flash flooding from Bloomington, Des Moines, Davenport, Cincinnati, Louisville, Charleston. So if you are in those areas, be prepared as we could see some flash flooding and that slight risk 15 to 40% chance of flooding. But we'll get more details once we get close to this and that potential severe weather threat that we could have from the 19th through the 20th, maybe even the 21st of July timeframe. Now, the last thing that we are going to be talking about is this area of potential tropical disturbance here that is currently over the waters really, really close to the beach areas in Destin, Florida, Panama City, and Apalachicola. Now, this area is a 40% chance of tropical development, so a medium 40% chance of a tropical disturbance here. As you can see, we're having a lot of rainfall across these areas, which is due to these tropical rains that are occurring. And this is going to migrate over to New Orleans areas. Now, this is not, the track moved a lot north. So this has just been riding across portions of northern Florida and not entering any of that extremely warm waters of the Gulf. It's really warm and really favorable for tropical development, but this has just been basically barely over the water at all. And I don't think it's going to have enough time because this is all it's got to form a tropical system. It's definitely going to strengthen, but I don't think it's going to be able to become a tropical system. Regardless of that, that doesn't matter because the only thing that would cause would be a little bit more rainfall and tropical storm winds. But regardless of that, we're going to see huge amounts of rainfall in these areas as we do flash flood watches up for New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas, for areas seeing 3 to 6 inches and maybe even isolated totals up to 10 inches of rain in some spots here, as we already do have a slight risk of flash flooding today across Grand Isle, Port Sulphur, New Orleans, Montague, all over the Slidell areas. And into day 2, this expands across Baton Rouge, Gulfport, New Orleans, Lafayette, and the Lake Charles areas as significant flash flooding is expected over the next 3 days or so, from today all the way through the 18th of July. And then it's going to expand and get even more prominent here as a moderate risk. 40 to 70% chance of flash flooding is going to be in effect from Lake Charles all the way over to Baton Rouge in those red areas, into Lafayette and New Iberia, and Galveston in the slight risk in New Orleans, Alexandria, and Hattiesburg areas for 3 days straight here, as we're going to see tons of flash flooding from basically today all the way through the 19th of July here. That's going to cause a ton of flash flooding. We could be seeing up to 10 inches of rain, maybe even more than that, but the main thing will probably be 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. Alright, I hope everybody did enjoy today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more severe weather updates so you're prepared when the next storms strike your area. We're going to be seeing a few days of severe weather, nothing too significant, but some prominent severe weather threats across the Midwest and portions of the Northeast. But that severe weather is really going to kick up with derecho season starting in the Midwestern portions of the U.S. Starting on July 19th through the 21st, potentially, where we could be seeing some severe weather and flash flooding, plus that tropical disturbance that is going to cause tons of rainfall and significant flash flooding in portions of Louisiana. Hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so you're prepared when the next weather strikes.